Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video because I'm going to share with you how to get excited about reading. I really did not like reading for most of my life. I genuinely never read a book. Like after college, after my college years, I did not read anything at all unless it was informational. For instance, when I was traveling somewhere, I would read books about destinations. When I was having babies, I was reading what not to expect. What to expect when you're expecting. And I would read books about nursing babies. And of course, once I had kids, we read lots and lots together, board books and read aloud stories and things like that. But for me to just get a book and sit down and read it for enjoyment was not a thing for me up until relatively recently, which is why I have recently been so enthusiastic about sharing with you guys the books that I've been reading and what I think about them. And I've been avidly joining book clubs and doing book challenges on YouTube. So I've just really found a way to love reading again, and I thought I would share that with you today. So hopefully if you're struggling to read, maybe you want to do it, but it's just nothing's catching your interest, you can't settle down to do it, there's too many distractions, you're just not interested, whatever the case may be, hopefully something that I have to say today is going to be helpful to you. I have to say the thing that got me most interested in reading again was watching BookTube videos. And the first time I stumbled across BookTubers, I was like, what the heck is this BookTube thing? I've never even heard of this before. And I started just watching people talk about books. I probably watched people talk about books for a year or two prior to buying any books to read. And I know that sounds crazy, but even now, I love listening to people talk about books, and I always have a running list of all the books that I want to buy, and I have on my Amazon wish list books that I want to read. Thriftbooks.com, which is my favorite place to buy books. I'll leave a coupon code in the description below. Their books are in such good condition. They're secondhand, and they are really cheap. I can buy sometimes 5 or 6 books for 20 bucks or less. So that has just been the most amazing thing for me. So I would get very enthusiastic watching BookTube videos and making lists of all the books that I hope to buy someday. Then I found myself going to thrift stores, consignment shops, Salvation Army, thrift books, and Amazon, and slowly purchasing books. I was able to find so many books so inexpensively that I was able to build this beautiful library behind me, and now I have so many books to choose from, and all of the books that I have, I know I will likely enjoy reading because I heard them talked about online on BookTube, and that's the reason I have them, because the storyline sounded so interesting to me that I had to have the book. So now I have a beautiful selection of books to choose from all of the time, which is wonderful. Of course, that's not necessary. There are so many means of getting books these days. I know right now you likely can't get to your local library, but you probably could get books online. You can do audiobooks, which is a wonderful thing too. So that's kind of how I started to spark an interest in reading once again. And then to actually get myself to commit to reading and to follow through with it, because it would be very easy for me to start reading a book and just put it down and never pick it up again. I started to become involved in book reading. And the way that I got involved was joining our local book club. We have 2 now. One I prompted. I had a friend of mine that we do this like neighborhood book club together. So we all choose a book, we all read it, we all talk about it. So you want to follow through with reading it to completion so that you can be part of the discussion. The same thing with our local library, and we're actually doing online Zoom meetings now. So we're still selecting a book every month, reading it and talking about it. And if that is not something that you want to do, a lot of YouTubers do monthly challenges for different types of reading. So for me, I really wanted to start reading more Jane Austen books, and they have Jane Austen July. So I watched the videos one year and I wrote down all of the Jane Austen books that I was most interested in reading, and then the following year I finally committed to doing it. So it's a way to kind of really get get yourself into accomplishing the reading that you want to do when you are a part of a community like that. So that was really helpful for me. Another way for me to commit following through with reading was to be enthusiastic about sharing it here on social media. So I share it on my YouTube channel relatively often. I also have a book club on my Patreon channel, which we just did for the first time. So I'm hoping for some positive feedback with that. So maybe that's something that we'll do again. And just keeping myself really involved with reading, more so than just sitting down and reading the book, being involved in other ways so that I actually pursue it. Something else that I found super helpful, which I really thought would not be a good thing for me to do, and I thought would be really confusing for me as well, is to read more than one book at a time. Because I notice that if I'm reading 3 books at a time, it'll take me longer to read them, but I will stay interested in each story. So when I am reading one book and I'm not in the mood for reading that specific book, for some reason I'm just like, I'm not feeling the vibe of that story, I'll just not read that day. But when I have 3 books that I'm juggling, just like with anything else, when it comes to watching maybe YouTube videos or watching TV or whatever it is, you're in certain moods at certain times of the day, and maybe at nighttime you don't want to read, I don't know, a mystery or a thriller because it's like going to be too scary, like some type of like a horror book. So maybe in the morning you're going to want to read one thing, but then in the evening you're more interested in reading something else. And plus, just depending on your mood, maybe you're just having a bad day and the book that you're reading is in a bad place and you just don't want more sadness in your life that day. But if you have another book that is very joyful and funny and happy, then you can revert to that book maybe for that particular day until you're in a better mood. Like, I just feel like I'm very mood driven when I'm reading books, so having a few to choose from every day has been really, really helpful to me. I also think that doing Audible books is amazing. Whether you have the physical book and you listen to the Audible, sometimes what I'll do is I'll read a little bit, and then if I need to put the book down to do laundry or something, but I'm really involved in the book, I'll put the Audible on and listen to it until I can get back to the reading, or I will just get the Audible and listen to a specific book on long car rides, or if I know I have a busy day at home doing housework, I can listen to that Audible all day long. So that is also a great way to get additional reading done, is to actually listen to it, and it can be really entertaining sometimes too. And I found especially with harder books, like some of the Jane Austen books were really difficult for me, especially going from not reading at all to reading Jane Austen was a little bit of a struggle. But when I was able to listen to the Audible and then read it too, the characters really came to life for me and it was so much easier to follow. Something else that helps for me to stay inspired to read is to keep a journal of all of the books that I'm reading. And I've done this in different ways. I have other journal books too that I would write down the book, the author. I was writing down the year the book was written. I was writing down my favorite quotes and the pages that they came from. Currently, right now, because I've been reading so much, I'm just keeping a list of the books that I'm reading, and I'm not writing down quotes, but I am highlighting quotes in the book. I'm using like little sticky notes next to my favorite quotes within the book rather than writing them down. So there's so many different ways to document what you are reading, but I think having documentation and just being able to look at like everything that you read makes you feel so accomplished. And in addition to that, I made a list of like, I wanted to start reading a lot more Victorian and classic books in 2020, so I actually made a video about it, but I have a whole list of all the classics that I want to read and the author so that I can make sure I check mark this throughout the year. So it's just another fun way to not only keep track of what you are reading, but to have maybe a running list of books that you want to read as well. Something else that made a difference for me is to not care what other people think about what you're reading. You read what you love no matter what it is. So when I am reading children's stories, which I do a lot, and I'm not even just talking young adult, which I love young adult books, but I'll read Alice in Wonderland, I'll read Peter Pan, I'll read A Secret Garden. Like, there are so many children's stories that I absolutely love and enjoy, and I am over worrying about being judged because I'm reading a children's book, because life is too short to read books that you don't love. And that's another thing. If you're not enjoying a book, don't read it. Like, why waste your time? And I just went through that with our local book club. One of the girls picked the book and we're all supposed to be reading it, and I tried really hard to get through it, and it did nothing good for me. It was just really a disturbing book, and it was not something I would typically read. It wasn't something that I was enjoying, and I feel horrible because I don't want the person to feel bad because of the selection that they made, but it just wasn't the book for me, and I'm not reading it. I'm just not doing book club this month because I did not like the story at all. And I did give it a fair chance, but again, there's so many books. Why waste your time reading something that you're not loving? Definitely give it a chance, because oftentimes when you start reading a book, it might not connect with you immediately, but sometimes a few chapters in, you really start to fall in love with the characters or the storyline. So definitely give it a fair chance, but don't waste your time if you're finding that you just don't like anything about the book. Something else that really helped me is keeping a book with me all of the time. So I'm not going anywhere now, so I always have easy accessibility to my books, but I always would have a book in my purse, in my car. If I'm going away for the weekend, whatever I'm doing, I make sure that I have a purse with me. Whatever I'm doing, I make sure that I have a book with me, because there were so many times where maybe I was waiting for the kids to get out of school or waiting for a doctor's appointment. You just never know when you're going to have some downtime, and it's just a really great time to fully take advantage of the opportunity to read. What I was actually doing when I was trying to find time to read was getting up a little bit early so that I could maybe read for 20 minutes to a half an hour before I started my day, or I was going to school pickup about 20 minutes earlier than I really needed to, so that I could have some quiet alone time in the car to do some reading. So you can steal minutes, hours here and there, however you need to once again incorporate reading in your life. Another great thing that I found super helpful, and this is going to be my last tip, is to plan ahead. So now that I've been watching BookTube videos for so long, I can anticipate the challenges that I know will be coming up, and I also like to do seasonal reading. So in the spring, I like to read books that take place in the spring. In the winter, I like to read books that take place in the winter or that are holiday themed. And of course, in October, I like to read kind of darker, spookier books, maybe ghost stories and things like that. So as I am thinking ahead, what I have decided to do, and I'll show you a little sneak peek of it now. I'm not completely done, but it's just an idea that I had that I thought was super fun, is instead of stacking books up all over my office in accordance to when I'm going to read them, I'm putting together themed baskets of what I'm going to be reading in the spring and summer for right now. For instance, in October, I know I'm probably going to participate in Victober, which is where you read a bunch of Victorian books, but I also want to read some of the horror stories or ghost stories that I have put aside for October as well. So I'll start kind of corralling things together that I know I want to read at that period of time. And coming up this summer, I am going to be participating in Jane Austen July once again, because I always love reading Jane Austen over the summer when they do that challenge. But I also want to read Harry Potter this summer. I want to pick up where I left off. I think I left off on book 3, so I want to reread book 3 and do 3 to 7. So that's something I'm excited for doing this summer, as well as just some books that are about travel or that are very atmospheric that'll maybe take me away to another place since I can't go anywhere. So I put those types of books aside too. And what I've done was I kind of put together themed baskets. So I have a Harry Potter basket, I have a Jane Austen and similar book basket. It's not all Jane Austen books, it's some others in there as well. And then I just have a basket of time travel, romance, just kind of travel in general books, and I have all of those together. So I am going to be pulling from those 3 baskets over the summer the books that I want to read. And I'm really excited for this because what I did, you guys might think I'm a little crazy, but I was looking into like the Book of the Month Club, because that's another way that you could get excited about reading again. And there's also Once Upon a Book, and I thought it was such a fun idea because you're reading the book, and when you get to certain pages, you open a gift that kind of goes with what you're reading. So if you're reading about, you know, a locket, it would say open, you know, it's time to open a gift, and then it'll tell you like the page number, and then you open the gift and it'll probably be like a locket. And I just thought that was such a fun idea and such a fun way to get you more into the book that you're reading. So I would highly recommend doing something like that. But what I did was, in these baskets, I put together like Harry Potter themed, I don't know, I have like drinks, like teas, and then I'm gonna have like a Harry Potter cookbook. So I'm gonna have like a craft, a drink, and a piece of jewelry to go with every theme. And it's just something fun that I'm doing for myself to give it that same feel as like a Once Upon a Book kind of thing. So for instance, in my Jane Austen basket, and I'm probably gonna do a whole video just specifically about this so you can see how I'm theming it up and the things I'm going to do. But I just have like a really pretty old-fashioned looking teacup with some, you know, really nice teas and a cameo necklace that I have. So it's just gonna make it so much more fun, I think. So I don't know. It's just one of the weird things that I do to keep reading interesting and fun for me, especially coming into the summer months. I just thought that would be a great idea. So that is everything that I have done recently to get myself back into reading. I hope that you found some of these tips helpful. It's really been a great thing for me, especially during this time. It's just been one of my favorite things to do to escape everything going on in the world, and I'm so glad that I've gotten myself back into reading. So thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.